It's the end of your Wednesday. It's Bakes on Things. It is the last word for your day. I hope you've had a great day, and welcome back to our Canada Positive Week, where we have accepted the challenge of a Liberal viewer saying conservatives can't be positive and there's nothing good about a conservative. Well, I think Canada's week of hope has been great so far. We're halfway through. If you followed this series from the beginning, you've actually seen how the conservative movement is transforming from housing to community, from freedom to faith, from new faces to new ideas in this country. Conservatives across the nation are going back out into the constituencies and actually getting in the trenches with their communities. But tonight, we're actually going to talk about something that goes to the heart of what leadership truly means, and that's protecting the vulnerable in our communities from coast to coast. Because a country is only as strong as the people that it defends. And while the current government, the Liberal government, has been obsessed with traveling around the world and signing fake trade agreements that hold no water, obsessed with virtue signaling and photo ops and empty symbolism, conservatives, while the Liberals are traveling, have gone across the country themselves and are quietly doing something radical. They're protecting people, men, women, children, families, and victims through actual policy. Not press conferences, not fake signed agreements, not virtue signaling. This episode's about them. This episode is about the moral side of conservatism, the part that doesn't always make headlines in our mainstream media, but makes all the difference to you and I. Let's go.
Welcome to Bakes on Things.
Welcome back to Bakes on Things. I'm Chris Baker. It's the last word. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and of course, join the conversation down below. The real test of any government isn't how it treats the powerful. It's how it treats the powerless. It's easy to hand out corporate subsidies and pose for climate summits. It's much harder to look at the uncomfortable realities of life within the country that you lead. Things like addiction, abuse, human trafficking, and violence, and actually confronting those issues. For years, Ottawa has failed that test, especially in the last decade. They've written the speeches, they've signed the checks, but then they've moved on. But across the conservative movement in this country, something new is starting to happen. A seriousness about justice that's grounded not in political correctness, but in common sense and compassion. Safety for you and safety for me. And this is a huge thing that's been coming out even in the House of Commons. Melissa Lantsman, who we've talked about a lot this week, is somebody who gets really involved in her community, also gets involved in what she thinks about our current system of laws. In October, Melissa Lantsman stood up in Parliament and spoke about one of the most overlooked issues in this country, which was intimate partner violence. And I shouldn't say was, it still is an issue. She supported new legislation that would finally create specific criminal offenses for repeat assault. Okay, repeat assault against a partner. So that can also include stalking and coercive control, laws that protect victims before the violence escalates into tragedy. That's what she was talking about. Okay, so she didn't grandstand at all. She didn't politicize it or over politicize it, at least. She just said what everyone knows. Canada's justice system as it stands has too often failed the people who need the justice system to act the most. And she's right, because while the Liberals are busy lecturing about gender equality, it is the Conservatives, like Lantsman, actually tightening the laws that keep the different genders safe. That's it. That's not talk. That's protection. That's leadership. That's not worrying about gender equality as much as it's worrying about keeping their lives safe. And Pierre Poilievre isn't any different. He's fine with whatever you identify your gender to be. He's fine with whatever your sexual preference is. He thinks the government should stay out of the way. He's a man who's been vilified by the left, though, as too tough on these issues and too tough on crime, really. When in reality, he's been one of the few voices willing to say what victims have been saying for years. That compassion for offenders cannot come at the expense of the justice for the victims. Pierre has been relentless about the consequences of Bill C-5, the liberal law that weakens sentencing for violent and repeat offenders. He said very plainly, you can't build hope on lawlessness. You can't build fairness without consequences. And yet we don't see that in those laws. Well, that's not anger from Pierre. And if he is a little angry about it, he should be. But that's not anger when he says that. That's accountability. Because when a country stops protecting the innocent throughout the nation, it stops really believing in itself as its own entity. And the Conservatives are reminding Canada that the first duty of government is not to manage perception, it's to protect our people. We have to keep our people safe from coast to coast and from north to south. It is the way that Canada was built and the only way Canada can continue. And we're seeing it some places. In Manitoba and Alberta, Conservative women are leading one of the most courageous policy fights in Canada's history, the war against human trafficking. Now, you would think from those two provinces that's not where most of this takes place, but not if you ask Raquel Dancho, along with provincial advocates alongside Raquel. They have been championing stronger border cooperation. They've been championing victim services and harsher penalties for all traffickers. These aren't theoretical debates. These are laws designed to save real lives. Often young girls who are lured, abused, and discarded by predators who know how weak our system really is and how weak the current system is. Liberals talk about awareness. Conservatives, instead of talking about awareness, they take action. They write laws if they can. Because awareness without any action itself isn't compassion, it's just cowardice. Just being aware of it does nothing. Absolutely does nothing. To denounce it does nothing. You have to take action. Enough of the denouncing by the Liberals without any action behind it. Look at Alberta for a second. A province once mocked by the national media for refusing to embrace the failed safe supply model. Under its Conservative government, Alberta is the one leading the country in recovery-based addiction. So recovery-based addiction, I should say, and all of the reform that goes around it. New treatment centers are coming up everywhere in Alberta. Detox programs and long-term housing supports are being built for those suffering through this, not to enable addiction, but to end it. Critics said it would not work, but overdose deaths are dropping. Employment among former addicts is rising. Families are reuniting. Families that have been suffering through addiction with their loved ones, reuniting. What a great story from Alberta. That's not cruelty. That's compassion that works. And once again, it's Conservatives that are doing that. Once again, it's Conservatives showing that hope isn't about lowering standards. It's about raising people back up from beneath their standards. That's what it's all about. And it doesn't really stop there even. There's so many good stories about all of this stuff. So, for example, Conservative MPs have been pushing for better support for our veterans. We know that. That was happening even during the election. Not more ceremonies, but real housing, job placements, and mental health access. Those types of things. They've fought to protect children from online exploitation, from social media predators, and from ideological experiments in the classroom that rob them of their innocence. Why wouldn't they protect them from this? And they've stood with families against policies that drive up the cost of living while pretending to help. Those policies don't help at all. Because to conservative folks, to conservatives, true conservatives, protecting the vulnerable doesn't mean smothering them with bureaucracy. Take note, Doug Ford. It means giving them a fighting chance at dignity within their lives. That's why so many conservatives jump out and help in their communities. Now, here's where it gets controversial. Once again, you won't hear any of this narrative in your mainstream media. You won't hear this narrative really anywhere else. And that's sad. The mainstream media has a bad habit. And that bad habit is if a conservative policy helps the vulnerable, they either bury it or twist it. There are many of them that will report it on the ninth page of their news. But when conservatives toughen laws on domestic violence or try to, they call it pandering. When they invest in addiction recovery, they call it moral policing. When they fight human trafficking, they call it fear mongering. Meanwhile, all they talk about is the orange man to the south. Why? Because they've built their entire political identity around the illusion that only progressives care. But Canadians should know better than this. We are a smarter people than this. At least we thought we were. They can see with their own eyes who's showing up here, can't they? Who's doing the actual work and who's making the hard decisions that actually save the lives. If we can't see that, we are lost as a country. We have to have compassion with a backbone. What makes conservatism and conservative compassion different is that it has a backbone. It doesn't just feel bad, it fixes. That's what it does. We don't just feel bad for you in the instant. We try to help you fix it. It doesn't just cry with victims. It fights for the victims, right with them, holding their hand. Because real compassion isn't fragile, it's fierce. It's saying, I love this country enough to make the hard calls. That's what's missing from Ottawa's endless empathy charades that they continue to put on. The courage to actually act. We are not seeing action in this country from this Liberal government at all on anything. Conservatives are proving that you can be both tough and tender, firm and fair, pragmatic and principled, that you can care without caving. And that's the biggest key to the puzzle that we're missing. So what does it all mean? As we wrap it up here to end your Wednesday, it means that Canada still has a moral compass. It's there. It's there. We have it. And right now, it's being recalibrated by people who understand that safety and compassion are not opposites. They are partners. They need to work together. It means a party once caricatured as cold is showing the country that what real warmth really looks like, because it's protection, it's stability, and it's responsibility. It means that hope isn't naive, but it's disciplined, and it's taken in disciplined action. Because when you protect your people from violence, from exploitation, from despair, you give them the foundation to dream all over again. And that's what this country was built on. That's what policy that protects the vulnerable is all about. Not headlines, not ideology, but humanity. And it's why this week of hope, our Canada Positive Week, is more than just a slogan to start each show. It's a movement. We have to start a movement that says no one is too small to matter, no one is too lost to be found, and no Canadian should ever have to face the darkness alone. That's what real leadership looks like. That's what real conservatism feels like. And that's the Canada worth defending. Thanks for watching Bakes on Things, The Last Word today. Hope you had a great Wednesday. Don't forget to like, subscribe, share this video as far and wide as you can. And of course, join the conversation about all of this down below. Thanks for watching. Have yourselves a great weekend. We'll see you on the first sip tomorrow morning.